Well, Jack, we've made it to the final third of our top 100 list now as we go through players 40 to 31. We'll finally be tapping into the tail end of that final third and down to the home stretch. It's the call up, and we have this continuation of what is the rundown of each of our top 100 prospects. And it's getting just spicier and spicier as we get closer to number one.
It gets better every time. We've talked about this. Like if we were more excited about 80 to 71 than we were 40 to 31, then the list is wrong.
Well, I kind of was though because of Joey Weimer, but that aside, yes, point stands.
I understand. Yeah, but that's a guy that, you're taking. I don't want to necessarily say you're taking a flyer on, but you might have higher than some other guys. Yeah. Now, these are the guys that are consensus top 100, and now it's where do they fall? And there's intrigue if they're higher than the consensus. There's intrigue if we've got them lower than the consensus. So, no, it's going to be really enjoyable to go through these guys. Much like we did last week, I will, look at what some of the other outlets have them ranked as. Look at their 2021s, 2022s, overall outlook for their organization, and decide if they're going to be good or not.
Yeah, and the plan is for most of these guys to be good.
I think so.
I think most of them are going to be good. And Tyler Soderstrom was phenomenal to start his professional career. First round pick, catcher that had the defensive questions, no doubt about it. But Oakland, they love the bat. And understandably so, right? 6'2", 205 pounds or so, but a good feel to hit from the left side. And we saw that in what was a phenomenal low A season last year. And again, that's a big jump for a high school guy straight to a full season of low A ball. Didn't really spend too much time at the complex or rookie league. And he hit 306, 390, 568. So 145 WRC plus, 24% K rate, 10% walk rate. He is off to a bit of a slow start this year, but is starting to show signs of life and come out of it. 167 to start the year, but flashing the power with 3 home runs in 19 games. And I think we'll continue to see that be evident for him. The big question was the glove, right? And is the glove and how is he going to be behind the dish? A lot of evaluators really were scared off from really projecting him for sure as a full-time catcher. Reports are, and it looks like it too, from what I've seen, that he has made major improvements behind the dish, that he worked very hard throughout the offseason. And honestly, I think it's evident in the early results, even on a basic counting stat. He had 15 pass balls in 38 games last year, 11 games so far this year. He has only 1 pass ball. So he seems to just be better all around in the receiving department, in the blocking department. And we're seeing him more comfortable moving behind the dish as well. There's no reason to rule this kid out yet as a catcher. And if he's even an average catcher, Jack, the bat's going to be well above average for the position.
The bats can be well above average. I think that's the thing that everybody needs to circle and highlight and underline and bold. The other thing is he's doing a teensy bit better of a job of dealing with base runners. And I think he's garnered a little bit of respect. I don't know how many of those starts last year among the 38 that he made behind the dish were with the experimental pickoff rule.
Exactly.
He had 55 stolen bases on him in 38 games.
Yeah. This
year, you mentioned 11 games. He only has 8 stolen bases on him. The caught stealing percentage is right around 20%. That's what it's going to be at. I think Shea Langoliers is a better catcher for Oakland. But I think that Soderstrom projects as a better bat for Oakland. So, what's it going to be? Is Soderstrom going to be the first baseman? That diminishes some of his prospect value because he's a fine catcher now. And you're right. I texted Aram Jackson, who is one of the broadcasters for Lansing, which is the high A team that he's with. And I simply asked, I said, hey man, long time no talk. How is Soderstrom? Like, what do you think about Soderstrom?
He's like, just you piece of shit. You haven't texted me for my birthday. And you
just
asked me about, you just
always
use me
pushing
for
an agenda.
So Soderstrom information, you sicko.
Exactly. And he said, hey man, good. How are you? Soderstrom looks great. He's receiving a lot better than apparently he was last year. Apparently he put a ton of work in. You're not necessarily seeing it statistically, but overall comfortability, he looks like a comfortable catcher back there, which is exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, even if it all goes poorly behind the dish, which I think, based on what You're hearing from people that see him every day now, and the reports in general, and even some of the small things that I've seen from his comfort back there. But even if it doesn't work out back there, his bat has the potential to be 285, 30 home runs, and get on base at a good clip. And even if he's a first baseman, yes, that diminishes the quote unquote prospect value. But there's a legitimate chance where Tyler Soderstrom is similar to a Nick Pratto type prospect at first base, albeit maybe not quite the glove, but the offensive potential, less Ks, but just to say he could be a very good first base prospect that is still a top 100 guy. If he's an average catcher, he's a top 30, top 40 prospect. And that's kind of why we have him here, because we think he can be an average catcher potentially.
Yeah. And again, how much do you care about the defensive value at first base, right?
Not
Pratto
that
is
much.
right. Pratto's under Soderstrom right now because we don't care that much about defensive value at first base. And Pratto looks like he's going to win 5 Gold Gloves in his first decade at first base for Kansas City. So, it doesn't matter that much. I think if Soderstrom sticks, then boom. But just going to the bat, man, like he is a pure hitter. He seems like a pure hitter, and it's easy power too. I'm worried about the strikeout numbers. I think as he sees better stuff, those might tick up. But if he's a low 30s strikeout guy, I think. What do you think?
I think, yeah. So I'm worried about the Ks just because it's more pitch rec, but like his bat to ball is phenomenal. You talk about pure hitter. He's top of the line in terms of contact rates. And I know that's why you see some really aggressive rankings. If you look across the industry on Soderstrom, those that are very analytically driven, I would not be surprised at all to see them be way higher on Soderstrom. Like the Fangraphs of the world, I could see them being a little bit higher on Soderstrom because they're looking at zone contact. They're looking at those things as well. He is elite in that department. And right now it's just he's swinging at everything, Jack. Like he's got a 42% chase rate. On breaking balls, it's even worse. That's really the issue for him. When he is swinging, though, and it's in the zone, he's putting bad on ball. It's just the swing decisions. And again, how often do we see this, Jack? A good hit tool guy, a borderline plus hit tool guy that just swings too much. That's it.
Yes.
Sometimes the simple equation is just swing a little bit less. And at 20 years old, I think Soderstrom can come that far and figure that out.
And we just talked about it last episode with Matos. That's exactly Luis Matos's problem. Soderstrom, I don't have Fangraphs ranking here, but Baseball America, he's 21. Baseball Prospectus, he's 23. So we're a lot lower on Soderstrom than those two, but we're a lot higher than 56 that Pipeline has him at.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's interesting. We're closer to Fangraphs, who has him at 37. So it looks like, I know Baseball America is big into the back end and, the contact rates and things like that they have access to, because there's no evaluation group or there's no publication that has a better relationship with teams than Baseball America. And it's because they're pros and
they're boots on the ground.
Yeah. They're awesome. They put people in front offices left and right. Yeah. Boots on the ground. And, Baseball America does rely a lot on what the information they get from teams. And I'm sure they loved all of the back end data that they got on Soderstrom. It makes sense. But yeah, again, the catching thing is going to make a big difference, because if he's an average catcher with his offensive profile, he's a top 20 prospect by year's end. If he's more of a first baseman, he's probably going to stay in that back end 30s, early 40s range for us. And I think that's really what it boils down to, is the glove. Because even though he's off to a slow start offensively, do you have any real concerns about the bat for a 20-year-old in high A? I don't.
No, again, the strikeout stuff, like I'm worried that when he sees better pitching, like if he starts to hit really well in high A and goes up to double A, I'm worried that he's going to strike out a billion times. But he is ahead of schedule.
Exactly.
Like he's a young 20.
He could repeat, he could repeat at either this level or next level, and it's totally fine. He'll still be 20 by the time the season's over. So, not worried about that in terms of his long-term outlook. But yeah, he could be a year slower than we initially thought after what was a phenomenal year last year. A guy that might be a year slower too is Bryson Stott. I was really hoping to see him make an impact at the big league level this year. And it just hasn't quite been there for him at the big league level. The difference for Stott is, I think if he's with the Royals or if he's with some of these other teams, he's going to be allowed to go out there and struggle and, go out there and just the team can endure what is a lack of production. The Phillies can't endure that. The Phillies need to win. They're trying to fight for the division. It's probably not going to happen, but they know that the season can get away from them quickly. And Bryson Stott just wasn't great through 9 games. He was pretty poor, but already in AAA, he's been fantastic again. I don't think that he has anything left to prove in the minors, but if he can work through some things and get back to the bigs, that's fine. Right now, the Phillies are kind of covered with some veterans that are doing it, but I really like Bryson Stott. I'm a huge fan of his, and a slow 9 games at the AAA level or the big league level is not going to throw me off from that. But I was surprised to see him get demoted so quickly.
I wasn't, because I think the Phillies are pressing right
They're
now.
pressing.
And yeah, right. And you can see it with Bohm. You saw it with his lash out for a moment. Listen, he's going to be better than Didi Gregorius by the end of the year. Yeah. Promise you that. So he's going to be the shortstop for the Philadelphia Phillies by the end of the year. Could it be a Kelenic thing? Kelenic's struggles were a little bit more drawn out at the end of last year. And then he went down to Tacoma. He raked, he came up, and he was better. Stott got that first taste. It was really cold outside in the NL East. And Stott through 9 games. You mentioned he really stunk. 4 for 30. He had 1 walk in 31 plate appearances. So this guy was, he's a walker. Pressing. He's a walker. He was pressing much like the rest of that lineup. And once the rest of that lineup either figures it out or doesn't, if they don't, then there's less pressure on Stott when he comes up. He's going to come up and join a team that, is so far gone, right? Like the Mets are going to run away, and then Atlanta is going to be there too. And you're fighting with Miami for 3rd in the division. And that's probably not good enough with a really good NL West to get you a wild card spot. So we'll see what the Phillies are doing, or, they all hit their stride and Stott enters good vibes in the clubhouse, and maybe that helps him. So I don't think that the second go around can be worse than the first go around. And I actually think it's going to be pretty good.
Yeah. And again, right, like when you have the ability to struggle and not feel the pressure, like Torque, I'm not worried about whatsoever, right? Because he can just go out there, struggle, feel it out, and get going. Stott, you're in a lineup with Bryce Harper, Kyle Schwarber, Nick Castellanos, JT Realmuto, and you're right in there, right? And it's like, all right, we need you to hit now. Like, we need you to perform for us right. You need to prove to us that you're better than Didi Gregorius or Alec Bohm right now. Do it now. Like, that's a lot. I can't imagine that pressure. And you only got 9 games to do it. So 31 plate appearances is nothing. And again, if he went back to AAA and stunk, I'd be like, okay, whatever. He's already been good through the first 6 games, already heating up again. I love the bat to ball. To me, I think he's an extremely safe prospect. It's above average. It's 50 to 55s across the freaking board. 50 to 55 in every department. He's a 55 hitter. He's a 55 runner, 50 power, 50 to 55 defender. It's just balanced across the board, above average across the board, with all of the intangibles you need and a left-handed bat. I just love that. And it'll play well in Philadelphia too. His power will play up to 20 plus in Philadelphia. No problem.
100%. You have a 45 present, 50 future on his field. I think he's a 50 to 55 guy in the field. I think he is a smooth defender. Where are your worries there?
Honestly, I just wanted to see more. I like him a lot at short. I think, again, it's more of I was thinking in terms of a big leaguer, right? Like, he's an above average minor league shortstop. I'm looking at the big league shortstops across the game, and I'm just like, they're all above average.
He's better. Right.
They're all above average defensively, but then what's average? So that's where I'm at. I think for sure he's an average defender right away. And I think that's the thing that we forget is, like, 45 is big league average. Like, that's what that's supposed to be, right? Is like big league average. I think he can be slightly above big league average, but maybe he can be better than that. I think there could be 55 in there. I'll tell you what, if he's playing second or third, I'm in on a 55 defensively. And I guess that's where we can get into the philosophical side of things. Jack, I'm curious what your thoughts are of this. Even if he's an average shortstop, but has the capability of playing third and second at an above average clip, does that make his overall field tool closer to a 55?
Yes.
Or can most shortstops also do that? Like, it's a really interesting philosophical side of it too. but all that to say, he's an above average defender.
Yeah. So
At the very worst average.
When I think field tool, I think, you do it really well. And, if you're pigeonholed into a corner, I think that guy should get a slightly lower grade versus, the same type of talent in the corner, but also can hop in center in a pinch. You know what I mean? Like Stott, I think he can be an above average defensive shortstop. And then I think he could be an average defensive second baseman and third baseman. And I think that adds just a couple of points to him.
It has to. So yeah, it's right on the brink of 55. But again, it's amazing how he's just, there's not really a hole to poke in his game. And that's what I love about Stott is you're going to really struggle to find an issue with him.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Like, so I saw him on the Cape before he went to Team USA for a little bit. He was in Wareham with Andrew Vaughn, by the way, who was absolutely raking out on the Cape. And Stott, I was more impressed with Stott than I was Vaughn, because Vaughn was like, your classic power guy. Yeah, he made some loud contact, but Stott made loud contact. It was a super smooth stroke at the plate.
It's just your classic pretty lefty swing.
Yeah, exactly. And more advanced analytics. He's got, long flowing hair. He looks like a true shortstop. He's got that Dansby Swanson Jr. type feel, but a lot more talent.
Yeah, no, really. I think he does have more talent too. Better bat to ball, better athlete all around. And, again, Dansby was a guy that was kind of 45 to 55 as he progressed through the minors with the glove, and has really turned into a good defender. And that's the thing with Stott, with access to big league resources, kind of could level up to that closer to 55 defender at short, but he's definitely more than capable at the position. And maybe one of my favorite left-handed swings in the minors is the next guy up.
Yeah.
Zach freaking Veen, who's heating up, by the way, Jack, he's heating up. And a guy that, look, he was phenomenal last year, but I think everybody put these crazy expectations on him as like, oh, this is the best prep bat, right? That was the one big thing that I think we kept hearing: best prep bat in the class, like highest upside prep bat in the class. And everyone just started really group thinking him into this elite prospect. He's an elite prospect, but he was being put up to this insane expectation of being, I think everyone expected him to be like Jordan Walker was out of the gate. And so when he hit 301 with a 400 on base percentage and 15 home runs with a 26% K rate and low A as a 19-year-old, somehow that did not improve his overall perception. He goes into high A this year, which again, I can't emphasize enough, is a huge jump for a high school guy. And K rate's at 29%, which is fine for a young guy. He's hitting 286. He's getting on base at a 420 clip. And again, he just continues to walk. He continues to pulverize baseballs and mistakes. Only one home run, yet the production that we have, to me, is extremely encouraging. 6 doubles. He swiped 36 bags last year. He's already swiped 9 this year. He's only been caught once. Veen's a fun freaking player, man. And he's got as much superstar upside as anybody we're going to talk about.
Yeah, so I think he's going to rise. I think midseason, we're talking about Veen as a top 25 and maybe even top 20 guy. And I think Veen, as he gets the higher levels of minor league baseball, is going to be a top 10 prospect in baseball. I'm higher on Veen than I think pretty much anybody that we're going to talk about this episode and maybe next episode too. I'm curious though, because preseason I'm looking at Baseball America, Pipeline, and Baseball Prospectus. America has him at 22. Pipeline has him at 36. Prospectus has him at 25. Okay. So we are the lowest of those 4. I understand that you got to see more, but let me pitch you on Veen, because in 125 career minor league games to this point, as a 19-year-old and a 20-year-old, more than 2 years younger than the league average hitter at both those stops, low A and high A. This guy has a 299, 402, 488 slash line. I think he is a 300, 400, 500 slash line hitter.
You see 300 batting average.
I do.
I'll make the argument in your defense of that too in a second, but continue.
Yeah. I see a 300 batting average. I see his ability to possibly lead the league in doubles. This guy can be a doubles machine.
He's in course.
Oh my God. Yeah. Doubles and triples. He might lead the league in triples. I think this guy is a little less batting average than Charlie Blackmon, but more power and a better defender. I think this guy is the closest thing that Coors is going to get to Cargo.
And he's more dynamic than Cargo. Like Cargo is like, of course, you're going to be thrilled to get the offensive output that Cargo gave you, at his peak. But Veen, in terms of his speed, I don't think people realize how fast Zach Veen is. Like, yeah, it's plus speed. Thanks to he's 6'4", 190. He has these long limbs, and it's 3 steps to first, as we were talking about with Ellie De La Cruz. It's similar, extremely, extremely fast. And we're seeing him kind of translate that into game speed in a lot of different ways. He could play center in a pinch, but he's just his reads and his first step is not quite as quick. And I think it's more of a corner for him. But as with a guy with his speed and his arm as a corner outfielder, he could be a plus defender out there as well. So you're getting a lot of value.
162 game average for Cargo over his 12-year career, 10 of which were spent in Colorado. This guy was 285, 343, 500. That's an 843 OPS. I think Veen is better than Cargo in the batting average department, but let's be conservative and say that he's 285. Fair?
Yeah.
343, Veen's going to be better than that in the OBP department. This guy walks all the time.
Walks a ton.
And then slugging 500, I think he's right there. So I think we're looking at a 900 OPS guy. Cargo averaged 28 bombs, 92 driven in, 14 bags. Veen is more bags, maybe 5 fewer bombs, 23, but same number of driven in. So
I was going to say, so Veen, because Veen's again a speed guy, and that's kind of the trend of this episode, right? Is he's okay with putting it on the ground sometimes, especially if he's behind an account. Where Cargo, like, it was lift, lift, and elevate and celebrate, and that's what he did, and that's what made him so good. But like Veen doesn't need to do that. He can shoot it the other way, as you mentioned, have the ball die in the gap, and he's on second with a hustle double. And that's something that Cargo, just a level to his game that Cargo didn't have. Cargo is a more pure bat to ball guy, I think, but Veen's swing decisions will help him. He doesn't chase. And another guy that, again, has some zone miss, which we talked about that on the Just Baseball show, actually, how just because you have zone miss doesn't mean you can't be a plus hit tool guy, because if you don't chase it all, like Mike Trout has some zone miss, but if you look at his swing percentage, he doesn't swing at anything at the top of the zone. That's a borderline ball. And he doesn't expand the zone in a lot of ways that he knows is going to, result in weak contact or a swing and a miss. Veen is kind of the same thing. He's not going to chase egregiously. He's not going to chase really much at all. And he'll swing and miss in the zone sometimes, but he's going to have such great quality of contact that it won't matter. And he's still going to put up good batting average numbers because he's not going to, help the pitcher out in any way. I think Veen's going to be a stud. And what really stands out to me with him, and a reason why I could definitely agree with you that we could have bumped Veen up a little bit higher. I was really and I always like to be transparent about it. I was a little bit worried about the ability to hit at high A. I thought there was going to be a little bit more swing and miss. I really did. And that one I'll wear. I thought there would be more swing and miss. I looked at his swing. I saw the zone contact numbers, and I said, he's going to have to be damn great with his plate discipline at the high A level as a 20-year-old. And guess what? He's been damn great. So I did not expect this kind of plate discipline from him. And 100% we could have put him higher. I'll wear that one. That one's me. But I'm so pumped to see him off to the start he's on, because I think he'll be one of the more fun young players in baseball to watch. And it's not like we got him at like 80, but we definitely could jump him up a little bit. And that's a guy by the midseason update, top 20s within reach.
I'm thinking about the offense right now in Colorado because they just extended Ryan McMahon. You've got Connor Joe. I mean, Joe is in his second year of ball. Like, he's got 5 years.
I love that that's the first 2 names you mentioned.
Well, yeah, but they signed Chris Bryant to that massive extension, obviously, too. Like, so you've got KB McMahon, Connor Joe, and Zach Veen in 2 years joining the fold. Like,
that's that again. Offense, I was wrong on the ETA. Like, he's way more advanced than I thought he'd be.
There we go, man. By the way, before we move on, Mets just DFA'd Robbie Cano.
Thank you. That needed to be done.
There we go.
That needed to be done.
That's eating money.
Yeah, they were just wasting their time there. I know we were holding off to talk about that on the Just Baseball show. I'm very much looking forward to talking about that. Take a page from the Angels book. The roster spot's too valuable.
Yes.
take the loss on the money, especially with Uncle Steve, and utilize that roster spot. I was at the game yesterday, and Dom Smith is going off with 4 hits. Like, that's a guy that you put in the right spots. He's gonna hit really well for you, way better than what Robbie Cano is going to give you. So that's cool to see. I'm glad they're going with the youth there, and they want to win now. One last note on Veen, and the reason why I, again, more confidence in the hit tool. You look at Veen, and doesn't he just scream guy that would struggle against lefties, long limbs, powerful swing? He doesn't struggle against lefties. He had much less power last year, but he was so solid, right? He spit on a lot of pitches. He walked more left on left. So he was looking like pigeonholing for certain pitches. And if he didn't get it, he'd take the walk. 304, 389, 535 last year against righties, 289, 434, 374 against lefties. So more of the bat to ball focus left on left. But if you've got a guy with his speed that isn't a liability left on left, and you can justify keeping him in the lineup, which I think you can with a 434 on base, who cares if you're giving up power? He's a guy that you can keep in the lineup every day and won't be a disaster left on left.
So far this year, Veen against lefties is 8 for 18, and his only bomb of the year has come left on left.
Oh, there you go. There you go. And don't forget, I mean, there's some really good left-handed pitchers in his league, including, I think they would have squared off by now, but Kyle Harrison.
So I would assume so.
He's facing some tough lefties out there too. So Spokane also has a pretty good team.
Spokane, man.
Spokane. Why? What's the point of the E at the end if it's Spokane?
It's Spokane. That's where Gonzaga is. Spokane.
Okay. There's an E. I believe you because it's your job to know that, but there's an E in there. It's Spokane is a very, very fair, I feel like, pronunciation there.
I understand.
I'll wear Zach Veen being too low. I'm gonna just say it should be Spokane.
You think Veen and Chet would be boys if they're both in Spokane right now? I mean,
they kind of look like they have the same vibe to them. Very relaxed, almost just roll off the shoulder type. I could see.
Yeah.
That.
So we saw Chet Holmgren's dad still uses a camcorder to film all the games from the stands. I feel like that's cool. What Veen's dad does too, right? Because Veen's got the long hair and the mustache. I feel like that is Zach Veen's dad. He's the type of camcorder in the stands, hey, we're gonna watch this back and dissect the film, and he'll say, Dad, I've got TrackMan, I'm good.
Yeah, Dad, we don't need the old camcorders. Well, it's crazy. A guy that's been featured everywhere on video with his slider. It's a guy that checks in for us, and someone that we've been talking about for so freaking long, dude. And someone that I know we have been breaking down for a little while back, and it's Matt Brash. He comes in at 37, right-handed pitching prospect with the Seattle Mariners. And Brash, I'm glad to see him up at the big league level. I figured there would be some challenges given that his best pitch is a pitch that is extremely difficult to locate for a strike. He's shown us really good flashes. He's also shown us a lot of walks and a lot of Ks in the minor league level. Not as many Ks thus far at the big league level, although in certain spots you can see a ton of swing and miss. And this is a guy that in his first start made Tim Anderson, look really uncomfortable, made Jose Abreu look really uncomfortable, made some of the better hitters in baseball look very uncomfortable. But again, the league adjusts to you a little bit. And I think they know you spin on the slider right now. It's tough for him to beat you, but on focusing on the positives, low 2 ERA in the minor leagues in his career, pitched his way to a big league debut with 100 innings under his belt professionally. As a guy that was drafted in the 4th round out of Niagara, it's really impressive to see where Matt Brash has gotten. And I guess to tee up, are you concerned of through 17 innings for Matt Brash at all?
No, I'm not. Do I think that he is going to have a career-long effort of, at points failing to throw strikes? I do. I don't know how much better the command gets, but the thing is, if it's anywhere close to the strike zone, he's Cy Young. It's ridiculous. The stuff is never before seen. And I love it because Savant and Pitcher List and Fangraphs, they fail to identify which pitch is the curveball and which pitch is the slider, because he's got 2 breaking pitches that look pretty much identical. They're the same speed. They've got similar spin. One is a lot more vertical and looks like a hammer of a knuckle curve. And the other, but even though it's high spin, like it's got knuckle curve type movement where it's more down. And then the other is like a hard slider that has more horizontal movement than I've ever seen before in my life. So, it's one of those, like, he has disgusting setup man stuff and he can go 6 innings. Question is always going to be, can he throw strikes? And I think he's going to be near the top of the league in walks pretty much whenever he throws a full season, but he's also going to be near the top of the league in strikeouts.
And that sounds like Lance McCullers, right?
Yeah, I think Brash and Lance McCullers are very similar.
It's very similar. And as he commands that slider and curveball better, he can lean on him more. My only concern is this, and he can get away with it because of how good the breaking balls are. But I love having, you need that third speed. And even the changeup is the same speed as the curveball, is the same speed as the slider. Those are both 82 to 84. And then he has the fastball. So, I think right now guys are facing Brash. They know he has the command struggles. Anything with spin, they're spitting on. They're just taking it. You're sitting dead red for the fastball, which is a good fastball. But right now it's not playing up as well because guys are sitting for it. Because again, if Matt Brash locates 3 of his breaking balls, which break more than the strike zone, so that's extremely challenging, I'll tip my cap and walk back to the dugout.
Yes.
If he doesn't throw me a fastball and he locates 3 breaking balls, I'll tip my cap and walk back to the dugout. I'll take an 0 for 4 golden sombrero if he does that 12 times. The thing is he's not going to.
Right.
And you jump on that fastball, and right now that's what's happening. And opponents are hitting 318 with a 455 slugging against that heater. He's still getting whiffs on it because, again, when he's sequencing right, when it's fastball, then slider that devastates you, or slider that sets up, then back to the fastball elevated to whiff, he's getting 26% whiff rate, 15% put away percentage, which is great for a fastball. Yeah. It's just right now, guys can sit on the heater and dare him to locate the breaking ball, and he just can't locate it at this point. But to your point, his slider breaks at a higher speed and more than I think any slider we've seen in the StatCast era, if I'm not mistaken, which again, it makes it hard to spot, but makes it impossible to hit.
So Eno Saris, who's a writer for The Athletic, he's got this metric called Stuff Plus, and he tweeted right after Brash made his debut in Chicago against the White Sox. He said, through one start, Matt Brash leads Major League Baseball in Stuff Plus, and that's just on vertical, horizontal break in relation to speed. This guy, and we're talking bad about him because he's walked 13 guys in 17 innings. He's got a 17% walk rate. It feels like, we're not talking about a top 40 prospect in baseball, but the reason we're talking about a top 40 prospect in baseball is because his breaking pitches are literally something that has never been done before.
Yeah, it's insane. And I would say the only similarity is McCullers, and McCullers, people always said, oh, you can't lean on a breaking ball this much. And McCullers said, oh yeah, come watch. And
in the World Series, come watch.
Luzardo, same thing. I think the mentality for Jesus Luzardo of you can't lean on a breaking ball this much resulted in him leaning on the fastball more. And Jesus Luzardo's fastball got hit pretty well. He's throwing the curveball more than any other pitch. And he actually told us on the Just Baseball show, he calls it a slider, but it goes into Savant as a curveball. He throws that breaking ball more than ever before right now. And now that he's commanding it better, because his problem too is it was breaking out of the strike zone. He's commanding it better. He's throwing the breaking ball more than any other pitch. So it's okay. We're seeing that that's okay in today's game. But again, you got to find the feel for it. And he will. He will. And I think that's why we're focusing, because we could just sit here and be like, he's so nasty. He's so nasty. You know that already. Right. Everybody that's listening to this knows that already.
Yeah, he's 37. Twitter. You've seen Pitching Ninja on Twitter cut up all the stuff.
I could sit here and clap like a seal. I'm extremely excited about Matt Brash. That's someone I've been talking about forever. But it might be rough for the first year. It might be. It was rough for Trevor Rogers for the first year. It was rough for a lot of phenomenal pitchers who are stuff over command for the first year. It was horrible for Cease, right? Giolito had a learning curve. Not worried about Brash in the slightest, but I will say there will be a level at which if he is not pitching to the caliber that, they're hoping, you might have to bump him from the rotation, at least just for this year. As much as I want to see him develop, the Mariners are trying to make the playoffs. So it will be interesting, but he would thrive in a short relief role. And then, you run it back next year and continue to develop that command, because you can develop command in a short relief role. And honestly, it saves some bullets for a guy that did have some injury history. So we'll see how it goes, but I want to see a few more starts before we even get there. Brash has a chance to be one of the more lights out middle rotation guys in baseball.
Yeah, 100%. And one more thing before we move off from Brash, something that is super encouraging right now, when opponents are putting balls in play, 61% ground ball rate. They are.
How are you going to hit him? How are you going to hit his breaking ball in the air?
You can't. You can't. So that's the thing. If he develops better command of the breaking pitches, it's going to be like Luzardo, where nobody's hitting him well. That's the thing. Like, I don't think you can.
They can beat themselves.
Slider. Right. You can beat themselves. Like, I don't think anybody looks at Brash's slider and says, "Oh yeah, let me just sit on my back hip and then I'll send this thing to the moon if I time it up correctly."
Yeah. How'd you beat Matt Brash? I was cheating for the slider.
Yeah.
No. He could tell you. He could say it's coming, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's just one of those pitches. A guy that could probably, and I'm just going to keep doing this, by the way, every single time with cheesy transitions.
Yeah, perfect. A guy
that could probably benefit from being told what's coming right now is Nick Yorke. He's off to a slow start, but I'm not worried about him in the slightest, and we'll talk about that. But the power is not there for Nick Yorke in the early going, and this is his second stint in high A, which makes it interesting because typically you can draw to a start and go, oh, well, he was great in low A last year. He's struggling to get acclimated in high A. Nick Yorke was phenomenal in low A. He was better in high A than he was in low A in a lot of ways. A little bit more swing and miss, but a little bit more power. Last year, in his 21 games at the high A level, he slashed 333, 406, 571. It's a 158 WRC plus, 11.5% walk rate, 23% K rate, 4 home runs. 14 home runs on the season in 97 games. He was phenomenal. Great bat to ball. Really interesting power that we haven't seen make its way into his performance so far through 15 games. Not really worried. He's still not striking out much. He's still walking. He's going to be just fine. And I love Nick Yorke's swing. I love his ability to tap into power, especially to his pull side. And I am just a big Nick Yorke fan.
Yeah, I mean, if he's struggling as badly as you're making him out to be struggling, and we're talking about a guy that's hitting 262 with 360 OBP through 15 games,
yeah,
I'm cool with that being his struggles in high A. I'm totally cool with it. As a 20-year-old, I'm cool with that.
Exactly, right? Like that's the problem. It's the 311 slug, really, because what I really celebrated from Yorke is the ability to tap into game power, and we saw that last year, especially again to the pull side where his bat is so quick, and it's really easy lift from him, and it's low effort because you look at a guy that's 6 foot, 200 pounds, and I look at him and I'm like, okay, this guy might need a bit of a leg kick or a high effort swing or cheap pull side or do some of these things to tap into power. He's quiet. It's simple. It's an upright stance, a very quiet load, a short toe tap, and he just unleashes. And it's an easy move to time up. It's part of the reason why I'm always going to believe in the hit tool. But what really floors me is with such a quiet move. I mean, you look at his lower half, it looks like he barely even really gets into it, but he does. And then all of a sudden he's unloading on a baseball and hitting it 400 feet. It's really effortless power that just stems from ridiculous bat speed, Jack. It's really impressive.
Yeah, no, it's super impressive. And my thing about Yorke, we've got him higher than any other publication except for Baseball America. Yeah. My thing about Yorke is like, he's got some feel to hit there. And I love that. And you've got him, what do you have his hit tool graded at? 50 with a 60 future. I think that's perfect. Yeah. I think this guy can turn into one of the better pure hitters in baseball if he realizes his true potential. I think this is a guy that can be flirting with 300 at some point in his big league career.
100%. And he's going to pepper the monster, man. Like, here's my thing with Yorke is he has a little bit. I talk about how simple everything is. Getting nerdy about swings for a second. He's a little bit of a guy that I think is driven by, hands, bat to ball, which is a liberty to have because most people really have to be focused on their lower half. but he'll leak open a little bit and the bat will drag a tad. And if you look, like, he doesn't go pull side too often unless he catches it out front. And he is phenomenal, adept at going the other way. But I want to see him kind of trying to turn on some line drives a bit more. And I think that's what we're seeing now is teams are busting him inside. And there's a little bit of this front side leak that causes him to get, jammed up on a little bit. And he's got such good bat speed. He can fight through it and hit your soft inside out swings for a base hit. But this was a guy that was punishing mistakes. He would pull, a slider that was tailing away and still be able to put it over the wall, pull side, in left field. Pitchers are adjusting to him a little bit. And I'm not worried about him. He's hit some moon shots, 108, 110 miles an hour to his pull side. But there's definitely a little bit of that blue zone middle in right now. And hard stuff in is the challenge. With how simple his load and his swing is, it seems like he's just really a small tweak away from unlocking it all. But this is the classic adjusting to how the league adjusts to you. And I think he's going to be just fine because his swing really is just so simple. And the feel for lift and backspin is just so effortless for him.
Okay. So I don't think there's a better American League park to hit triples in than Fenway Park. And I want to make a bet with you. Within the first 5 years of Nick Yorke being up at the big league level, he leads the American League in triples.
Yeah. Okay.
Because he goes right center so well.
Yeah,
and he can go down the right field
park
line so well. The right center, you've got the triangle out there that is triples galore. And then you can also hit line drives down the right field line that wrap around pesky pole. And that can be a triple, right? They just kind of camera on the wall and then boom, all of a sudden it's 385 in straightaway right field. And the right fielder's got to get to that. And he's got enough speed to get to third.
Totally. No, I'm in on that. Because again, he if you try to throw breaking stuff away from him, he's just going to drop the head on that so well.
Yeah.
The way he drops the barrel, it's really impressive. The feel for it. Again, if your issue is pull side, that's something that you can learn. You can fire. I was just talking about this with actually Griffin Conine, because as you know, like that's someone who all the power in the world, strikeouts were the issue. And he came into this year and he's like, I want to be a hitter. I don't want to just be a power guy, and started slow. And now over his last 12 games, striking out 25% of the time. Guess where everything's going? The other way. And he's like, I'm covered. I feel like I have my plate coverage. I'm comfortable, but now I just need to fire up the machine and prove to myself that I can turn around 95 inside. And that's picking your spots, one, and it's reactionary too. But like the hardest part is feeling like you have the plate coverage the other way. And for Yorke to already have that, it took Griffin striking out 40% of the time to realize, hey, I need to be able to cover that stuff breaking away from me and be able to stay back and back hip everything. And then I'll figure out reacting on the inside stuff. Yorke has that down. And I mean, a lot of guys, it takes years to really get that down. And I think if you've got the plate coverage the other way, if you've got the ability to stay back on breaking balls and punish them the other way, you're going to figure out how to turn on stuff on middle in. And I'm not too worried about that because Yorke's swing is extremely simple.
Yeah, 100%. No, I think Yorke has, and I think Chaim Bloom has made it very obvious that Xander Bogaerts is not the plan. So Trevor Story can transition to third. I think Nick Yorke, sooner rather than later, is going to be the second baseman for the Boston Red Sox. I'd say All-Star break next year if Yorke looks ready, because I think he's going to get up to Double-A this year. I think he's going to get over this slow start in High A. I think he's going to get to Double-A, and then I think he's going to open in Worcester next year. I think, by the All-Star break, very latest September call-up next year, I think he's the second baseman. And then I think in 2024, it's Trevor Story at short, and it's Nick Yorke at second.
I love it. And I'm all in on Yorke.
Do you? I would prefer Bogaerts.
Oh yeah. But I love any young and getting an opportunity. The right side of the infield being Nick Yorke and Tristan Casas just gets me giddy.
No, man, I heard they love Bobby Dalbec.
Yeah. Bobby Dalbec with a K. No, okay. Of course, Bogaerts is as complete of a hitter as you're going to get, but screw it. I lean prospects at all times, and you got to trust Chaim Bloom though, right?
Yeah,
So
gotta trust him.
Gotta trust him. Blind trust in Heim Bloom. No, but I think Yorke's going to be a great player. And honestly, I think that the ceiling to me is 285, 25, 20 to 25, great on base, and solid D at second. I think the defense gets a little bit hated on. He's more than fine at second base. I like what I've seen from him in terms of the actions and range there.
Yeah, 100%.
Next guy. We won't spend too much time because it's still relatively young in his professional career, but number 1 overall pick, man, the number 1 overall pick. You can say what you want, under slot, whatever. I think he was good enough to go 1-1. I know we all do, just baseball, yourself, me included, or Peter included. Like we all were like, hell, I would have given him slot value number 1. Like we've all been in on Henry Davis. He's off to a great start in his professional career in a lot of ways, and a very unorthodox swing. And it was one that it took me a little bit to get it almost used to imagine how that was going to work at the big league level or even at the professional level. I know some have used the term like divisive swing. There's nothing divisive about hitting 323 through 18 games. There's nothing divisive about putting up better offensive numbers for a catcher than Joey Bart, really putting up the best offensive numbers for a catcher since Adley Rutschman. There's nothing divisive about that. There gets to a certain point, and I talked about this with Joey Weimer. There gets to a certain point where you have to just focus on the results. You have to focus on the fact that there's no specific way that he's getting blown up. You know, if there was a scouting report and just pitchers aren't able to execute that yet, then I'd say, okay, like, oh, there's a huge hole in his swing. Just pitchers are not really exploiting it. That ain't the case with Henry Davis. It ain't the case with Joey Weimer. And it can only be divisive if it doesn't work or if there's inconsistency. And Henry Davis has been nothing but consistent since starting his professional career, and through 18 games in high A, sitting 323 with 3 jacks, and he's only struck out 21% of the time. The glove is going to be interesting because the arm is phenomenal. It's off the charts.
The arm's insane,
but the actions are inconsistent. His fluidity is a bit inconsistent. His receiving's a bit inconsistent, and he's only thrown out one base stealer in 14 attempts. So that's something to follow. He's got all the tools behind the dish. But again, the bat is just so valuable here for a guy that has insane raw power and a good feel to hit.
No, it's stupid. 109 college games at Louisville over 3 years. This guy hit 337 with an OPS a point over 1,000. And in 109 college games, he had 21 bombs and 84 driven in. Those numbers are stupid. And then he comes to minor league ball. He had 8 games of minor league ball in 2021. And then he's got 18 so far this year, 26 minor league games. The guy's hitting 320 with an OPS north of 1,000. He's slugging over 600. He's got 11 walks and 27 punch outs. And in 3 years of college ball, he had 52 walks, 46 punch outs. He is, his calling card was, this is a do-it-all guy. This is a strong catcher with a hose of an arm, and, he can hit for power and all that stuff. There's legitimately not a hole in his offensive game.
No. And talking about a guy, he's short to the ball. I think it's really the load and the way he looks that threw people off a little bit, but it's more of a rhythm and timing thing. He doesn't move. And also, I was looking at his lower half with his swing. He's able to do things. And I talk about like swing malleability, which is just like getting your A and your B swings off and like what your body allows you to do. He will take some swings where his lower half, like the adjustability of his lower half is really impressive. Like he's getting the pitches where he's not even rotating. He's throwing the hands at it. And it's like, how did he not tear a quad with this swing? And he gets it off. Like he's a phenomenal athlete, which is why I think he's going to be great behind the dish long-term. But also that adjustability is evident in the box. He has a small leg kick that really is kind of bringing it over from a slightly open stance. He repeats that really well. It's all in rhythm with his hand load that I like because he times it up and repeats it a lot. He uses the whole field well. He lets the ball travel, and he's direct to the baseball. He's a guy that's really geared for line drives and will hit the home runs because he just hit the ball too damn hard. Like that's how Henry Davis looks to me. He's not somebody that's hitting moonshot home runs. It's line drives that keep going because that's the way his swing is geared. And he's just really tough to beat. He's just really all around difficult to get out because his swing is kind of conducive to being able to connect with anything. He's pulverized fastballs, Jack, so far this year. He's 13 for 28 against fastballs this year.
There we go. There we go.
And he hasn't been bad against breaking balls either, but he can get to anything.
Yeah, no, he's as adjustable a hitter as I've seen too. And like that has to do with his physique. I mean, you've seen him. He's a very strong human being and he's got those quick twitch fibers. He can get to breaking pitches. He can adjust mid swing. I think he's going to be a really good big league catcher. My question is receiving, right? Mm-hmm. Like, is he going to get a lot better at handling a pitching staff? And we'll see what the adjustments are like. He's outperforming high A at the moment. I think when he gets up to double A, it's going to take a little bit. I wouldn't be shocked if he finishes the year in double A, but I
because
think
of the glove adjustment too, right? And I always go back to Dingler, who lit up high A and then gets up to double A, and it's like this is a big adjustment on both sides of the baseball,
particularly defensive for catchers.
Mm-hmm. Yes, offense comes second. I mean, when we had Anthony Moore on the podcast, and I know he's not a top 100 prospect, but he knows he needs to hit. He goes, I know I need to hit, but most of my time mentally is spent on preparing our pitchers for who they're going to face, preparing our pitchers to call the best pitches for them. And so preparing for our pitchers and also working on my defense. Like you only have so much time in the day and so much bandwidth to then focus on offense as well. There's only so much time for these catchers to do that. But no, I'm really excited about Davis, and another guy that even if it doesn't work out behind the dish, the bat is top 100 caliber by itself. And that is extremely valuable in its own.
If he was a DH, he'd be 80.
Yeah. Yeah. It's wild. So let's get to now a final slew of pitchers. Oh, actually we have one more position player in there, but 3 pitchers and a position player. We'll go a little bit quicker. We talk about where the industry has guys. Talk about another one. We talk about divisiveness. That makes no sense to me. Max Meyer being divisive makes no sense to me. Or polarizing, I guess it would be like, what is polarizing about Max Meyer? What is polarizing about a guy who was drafted 3rd overall, gets assigned straight to double A, pitches to a sub-2 ERA in double A, and then comes out this year and does the same shit? What else do you need from Max Meyer of the Miami Marlins to be convinced that he is a top 50 prospect or even a top 100 prospect? Because we have seen him omitted in certain contexts.
Well, you do this for a living. It's your job to watch these guys. So, you're watching all of his stuff too. This is the best slider in minor league baseball right now, I think. And he throws mid-90s. He is going to be, if he's in the bullpen, if his, obviously this is a very crowded Marlins rotation right now. If he comes up in 2 weeks and he's the best swingman in baseball, so be it. I think he's going to be a really good starter at some point. But if the Marlins chose to deploy Max Meyer in the 6th and 7th inning when the starter can only go 5, that's a bridge. That's a better bridge to the 8th inning than anybody in baseball at the moment.
He's Christian Javier immediately, I think.
Immediately.
I like the slider will make him Christian Javier immediately, in my opinion. Yes. And that's high praise because Javier is great. When I look at Max Meyer, though, I don't get the reliever risk. We just talked about Brash. We just talked about McCullers. Meyer has better command than both of those guys. I'm not saying he's gonna be better than McCullers, but he has better command than Brash. And already has mixed in a changeup more than he ever has. The slider is 70 grade big league now, might even be, one of the few breaking balls that we could push to 80. And I don't think that would be crazy, Jack. Called swinging strike percentage is one of my favorite things to look at.
Yeah. Big
league average is about 27%. For called swinging strike rate. What do you think Max Myers has been in AAA on his slider?
So you said 27% is big league average?
Yeah, and you're not going to get like egregious, outliers. You can only get such a high percentage of the pitches you throw being called or swinging strikes. I mean, you still have to throw some balls. Right. What do you think his percentage is on that pitch? Which he throws, by the way, 31% of the time.
But it's 35%.
44. Opponents, despite the fact that he throws this pitch more than a third of the time, have an OPS of 275 against Max Meyer's slider.
What's the slash line?
The slash line, I don't have it in front of me. All I have
I've never heard an OPS below 300 before.
All I have is the OPS. So I would imagine it would be like there's 4 hits and 45 plate appearances.
There we go.
And they're all singles off his slider.
Jesus.
And the fastball is playing up well too. You mentioned mid 90s. It's a flat fastball with not the best profile, but it's high spin. And he's eliminated some of the horizontal break to keep it more of that rising fastball. He's been 95 to 97 this year. He's averaging 95.7 miles per hour in the fastball. The changeup is being used more than ever before. And Jack, we haven't even gotten to the numbers for this year yet. He just carved through a really solid, in terms of like AAA solid team for the White Sox in AAA that had Yoan Moncada on the on the mend.
Yeah.
Dwight Smith Jr., another like former, like I had like 4 former big leaguers.
I see Charlotte next week. Yeah.
Yeah, you'll see him. So far through his 5 AAA starts, 26 and a third innings, 1.71 ERA, 1.79 FIP, 11.28 Ks per 9, 2 walks per 9. And you talk about the roster crunch. Eliezer Hernandez can be the swing man. Go ahead, throw him in the swing man spot. Max Meyer's your number 5. I think the Marlins need it. I want people to remember. I think the Marlins will call him up in May, in the next 2 weeks. That's my prediction.
There's no point in having him down there.
Well, he's just wasting bullets at this point. It's just boring for him. He's straight up bored. He carved through big leaguers in spring training. He's bored.
He looked not just carved through. Like carved through is very impressive. He made big leaguers look like idiots in big league spring training. Absolute
idiots. So I'm all the way in on Meyer. I think the reliever risk is stupid. I think not having him on the top 100 list is stupid. And we have him at 34. And what's crazy is he's not even the top pitching prospect for the Marlins. We've already been going long, so we'll go a little bit quicker. Josh Jung, out for the season, so we won't spend too much time. Phenomenal year last year. Great. One of the more high floor guys you're going to find in this whole conversation, right? One of the more high floor guys you're going to find in the top 100 list. Hit tool was always off the charts at Texas Tech. Always off the charts. You could see the burgeoning power from a 6'2", 215 guy, but he was a high ground ball rate guy, especially from the jump. Now he turned that hit tool and bat to ball into more lift and went from somebody who had a ground ball rate of 47%, cut that down to 34% in his season last year. Also upped his home run to fly ball rate, meaning the percentage of balls in the air, from 3% to 22%. Percentage of fly balls that are leaving the yard more than 10xing is always good news when in terms of power. And if you look at the numbers overall, Jack, last year, he was unconscious the whole season.
I mean, he was stupid.
326, 398, 592. That's a 152 WRC plus, 9% walk rate, 22% K rate. He is on the shelf for the season with a torn left labrum. Probably won't play this year, but he's the third baseman of the future in what's going to be a really fun infield very soon.
Yeah, that's his left shoulder. That's his lead shoulder as a righty bat. So I'm curious what that's going to be like. I think Fernando Tatis was dealing with that lead shoulder issue too. And, that'll pop quickly on you if you're, driving.
I'm glad he took care of it. Honestly, I'm glad he took care of it. Now is the time to do it.
Yeah, because that can hinder you all year long. And like Fernando Tatis, obviously he's different. He's built different, purple devil emoji. But
correct.
Like Tatis, the thing with him is you could see it at points. You could see it where like he would go
change
through
his
stretches,
finish. It's like
finish.
You want Jung messing with shit. He just connected. Like he just put it all together. Do you want him tinkering with his swing to not be hurt? The Rangers stink. Jung has proven everything he needs to prove. The second he's healthy, he'll do a few rehab games, and I think he could crack, the early roster for the big leagues. Right? Yeah, this guy's big league ready.
He got better in Round Rock than he was in Frisco. Yeah. Last year in Frisco, he 43 games, he had a 910 OPS. Then he goes up to Round Rock, 35 games, he has a 1088 OPS. So there's no point to prove anything else. So have him on the shelf. Play a couple of games with Round Rock next year to open the year. And then he's, the third baseman for the Texas Rangers on April 15th, 2023.
Which will be super fun. Super, super fun. I can't wait for that infield. That's going to be extremely fun infield. And I think to wrap up on him real quick and, obviously wish him a speedy recovery. Uh, 285, 290, 20 to 25 home runs, good on base, and solid defensive third, right? I mean, he's a guy that he's probably never going to be a top 5 third baseman in the game, but he's always going to be a top 10 guy. Right in the back, he's the guy that you pencil into the back end of your top 10 third baseman like every single year.
Yeah. Oh my God. Absolutely.
2 names that I know you're going to be really excited to get through.
Yeah.
Jack Leiter at 32, Yuri Perez at 31 to wrap up here. Jack Leiter, phenomenal first start, iffy second start, or iffy second outing, and a little bit of inconsistency with the command. We knew that was going to be a little bit of an issue. This is a guy that's going straight to Double-A. He's been able to limit damage despite the walks, and he's striking out everybody. And that's the really exciting part is the swing and miss. It's there. His last outing was his strongest, at least in the department of command. He did give up 3 hits and 2 earned runs, which was the most he's given up in a singular outing. But he only walked 1, which was the first time he walked less than multiple people. But 19 Ks and 12 2/3 is phenomenal. Look, Jack Leiter right now is fighting himself on the command a little bit. But long term, I don't think anybody should be massively concerned about someone with Jack Leiter's work ethic, knowledge of his body, ability to pitch, feel to pitch, not being able to get by with his command and stuff.
If not for G-Rod and George Kirby, I think Jack Leiter has the highest floor of any pitching prospect in minor league baseball right now.
You would say floor even with the 9 walks and 12 2/3.
Yeah,
I agree. Because I mean, you just go listen to our interview with him. Like just listen to this. He's a 30-year-old MLB vet already.
Dude, he's polished as shit. I mean, like there's the fastball. I'm not concerned about the fastball because you've got a future 70 grade on that. It rises like nobody's business. I think the breaking stuff. The breaking stuff complements it well. And this guy's body, like, you can see it just watching a start that Jack Leiter makes, watching the video that you see on Twitter. This dude's legs, it's obvious he's been squatting since he was in the womb.
And he's athletic on the mound too. So he's going to find the mechanics. He's going to find it all.
He's good. He's just good. Like I've got 0 concerns about Jack Leiter, to be totally honest. Absolutely 0.
Not in the slightest. I'm not concerned whatsoever. And again, like he's limited damage still, despite walking guys. He's pitched out of the jam like every single time. He has a 2.84 ERA despite walking 9 dudes in 12 2/3 innings. So
now, do I think he's got some of the best stuff in minor league baseball? No, I don't. I think there are guys that we've already talked about that have a lot better stuff. Meyer being one of them. I think Meyer has a lot better stuff than Jack Leiter, but Leiter, the way that he maximizes his stuff, and we're talking pitchability there, I think Leiter is one of the leaders in pitchability.
100%. And again, he also just has that moxie and that mentality on the mound that gives me confidence. Big game, he's got a little bit of that like Scherzer in him, a little less psychotic, but big game. Like I know he's not going to blink. He's going to rise to the occasion. And if he's struggling, if he's in a jam, if he's off to a bad start, it's not going to compound. Like he has all of those intangibles. And again, if you're newer to the show, listen to our interview from a few weeks back with Leiter just before the season. And you'll get everything you need to know in terms of his ability, his makeup, and just the way he approaches the game. He's going to be a star, and he's going to be a really good pitcher for a long time. A guy that could be the best pitching prospect of baseball very soon, and the last guy we'll talk about, Yuri Perez, youngest guy in Double-A, got off to a slow start. Oh no, he's turned 19 2 weeks ago and was not great through his first 2 starts in Double-A. And then he just absolutely carved through a good Milwaukee lineup. Double-A, Biloxi, Biloxi Shuckers.
The Shuckers.
The Shuckers. A really good lineup. A really good Biloxi Shuckers lineup. With Garrett Mitchell, Joey Weimer, and many others. 5 innings, 12 Ks, no walks, 1 hit. And that's a lineup that had just seen him about a week prior or 2 weeks prior. Again, bringing up my buddy Griffin in this one, texted me after the game and just goes, that was the most incredibly pitched game I've been on a field for. And I went back and watched the whole start. It's unbelievable. This kid's 6'8". He's 19 years old and only fell behind 2-0 once. And how did he get out of that 2-0 count? Backdoor breaking ball, called strike, 98 Bayou elevated. And you look at that, you talk about pitchability. This guy has pitchability, and he's also 6'8" with a 98-mile-an-hour fastball with high spin and a ton of life, and 2 secondaries that he already has a good feel for. This guy's a unicorn.
Is it literally just like if he throws 80 innings this year and G-Rod graduates, he's the top pitching prospect in baseball?
I think it's him versus Daniel Espino.
Yeah.
And I think Leiter's going to have too much of the growing pains with these guys just dominating. And again, this guy's 3 years younger than Jack Leiter. Just to put that in perspective, he's 3 years younger than Jack Leiter. He's pitching at Double-A.
Here's the thing: we talk about the work that Leiter puts into his body and all that stuff. We talk about the legs. We talk about the athleticism. Yuri Perez was born with this. He has God-given ability, and God-given ability trumps any work ethic. I'm sorry for all you dreamers out there that think work ethic trumps all.
Unless you can figure out a way to be 6'8" with athleticism on the mound.
Right, with a 2,500 RPM fastball at 98 miles an hour. This is God-given ability. And there are a lot of guys that parlay God-given ability and good work ethic into Hall of Fame careers. But Pedro Martinez has some of the most God-given ability baseball has ever seen. Yuri Perez, at 19 years old, has more God-given ability than anybody in minor league baseball. And it sounds like he's willing to put in some work to become the best pitcher in baseball, because that's what he can be.
I've heard nothing but great things about him. Seeing him on the backfields, Jack was special. Because when you're on the backfields in spring, you just get to go right up to the fence as if it's like, where like you're watching a high school game. Now I'm right up to the fence and I'm watching Yuri Perez, the fastball buzzing. What was really stood out to me is you'd have 2-0 counts where everybody knew the fastball was coming for the most part. He wasn't doing the backdoor get you like he was doing in his last start to climb back into or out of hitters counts. Guys would know the fastball was coming and cheat for it and still be late, because that's what 98 from a 6'8" release point with 2,500 RPMs will do to you. And again, this is a guy who you look at the ERA, it's 5.29 right now through his 17 innings. He struck out 30 batters. He's walked 5. He's going to be,
he's hit 4. He's hit 4.
He's hit 4. That is worth noting. That is kind of weird, but Alek Manoah hits everybody too. He's in great shape. The fact that he's 19 in Double-A is unbelievable. The feel for the secondaries is unbelievable. The changeup is great. The backdoor ability with the curveball. I mean, this guy, there's not much else to say other than he's 19. He's 6'8". He has amazing command somehow and good stuff. What the hell?
I don't know. You run out of words with this type of guy. You run out of, because what can you say that's groundbreaking about him? Because he's 6'8", he's 200 pounds, he's 19 years old, and he's dominating Double-A baseball. Is he going to come up at 19?
Like, that's the thing is I thought Double-A was nuts for him. And then he goes out and does what he did last outing, and so if he keeps carving up so here's the one thing we want to give one note on Yuri Perez. I've seen him fade in multiple starts now, where especially prior to the last start, I saw him fade, start to get fatigued. And then, the command started to fall apart. There's a 6'8" guy. It's a lot of energy to repeat all of those mechanics. The Marlins want to be careful with him, but he did not go more than 5 innings last year. And he's yet to go more than 5 innings this year. So that's the one thing, is stretching him out, being careful, elongating a 6'8" youngin. That's the one thing to monitor.
But the question is, where do you stretch him out? Double-A, Triple-A?
I think now you start to stretch him out. Now he went 5 last outing. See if you can, add another 10, 15 pitches, and continue to stretch him out. I think now's the time to do it.
So I say we get to June. I say you continue to quote unquote baby him through May. June, you stretch him out at Double-A. If he looks strong, stretched out in Double-A, then you bump him up to Triple-A for July, August. Triple-A runs through the end of September, and we'll see what happens in September.
To wrap up on this all, with Lodolo and Green set to graduate, is this the best starting pitching duo in the minor leagues? Meyer and Perez.
Meyer and Perez. Who's the second best pitching prospect for Cleveland? Because Espino's better.
Yeah, second best for Cleveland.
Logan Allen.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. It's pretty wide from there.
Meyer and Perez is eons better than the tandem of Espino and Allen. The only one that I'm looking at is G-Rod and DL Hall, but we haven't seen any of DL Hall so far this year.
Exactly.
I think it's fair to say Yuri and Meyer to this point once Lodolo and Green graduate.
Because even I look at the Mariners, you could say Kirby and Brash, but
but Brash is going to graduate.
Yeah.
So then it turns into Kirby and Hancock, and I'd take Perez and Meyer over Kirby and Hancock.
So pretty exciting. Pretty exciting for Marlins fans over there to see these guys get closer and closer. And it'll be interesting to see how the Marlins start to manage this wealth of pitching. Any final thoughts before we get into now for the next episode? We will be going 30-21. That's going to include the tandem of new shortstops with Lawler and Meyer, Jordan Walker, Robert Hassel. Like we've got some fun names that we're going to be going through in the next episode. So very much looking forward to that. Also, we'll have a prospect interview this week as well.
Yeah, I mean, we got a ton of hitters next go around. I thought this was the most enticing pitcher top 10 that we've done here. So I'm looking at 20 through 11 now, and that's where the arms are. But some of the most exciting bats in all of minor league baseball are in our next rundown.
100%, and I cannot wait to get to Corbin Carroll because that might just be a whole episode itself.
I hear you.
That'll do it for this super long episode because as we get to better players, it's more time talking about really, really good players. So we want to do them justice. And I imagine we were trying to do 20 an episode before.
Yeah, seriously.
It would have taken us 4 hours. Thank you so much for spending so much of your day with us, listening and talking prospects. And we'll continue this throughout the week as we finish up this top 100 breakdown. We'll also have we might have 2 prospect interviews this week. We definitely will have one. And we'll have more moving forward now that we have these Monday built-in off days and some more solidified schedules for minor leaguers. Thank you as always for listening. Look forward to talking prospects with you tomorrow.